Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our board meeting this afternoon. It's good to see you all. Good afternoon to my board colleagues and to our superintendent and to all of our staff that are with us today. Any guests that are present, welcome and glad to have you here. And anyone watching online, thank you for watching and joining us today. So we'll go ahead and get started with our regular board meeting. Today it is September 13th, 2022. It is 5 p.m. and we'll call this regular meeting to order. Just a reminder to folks to please make sure your phones are on vibrate or silence. And when you are speaking, please make sure you speak into the mic so that everyone can hear you both here present or online. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and read our board norms and protocols as we do at every meeting. We agree to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, and to continually self-check to determine if we're following our norms when conducting district business. Again, good afternoon. Welcome to everybody. It's great to see you all, and we'll go ahead and continue with our agenda. So, Ms. Smith, would you please do a roll call?
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, present.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, present.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, present.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, present.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, present.
Rachel Russell. Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I would now actually entertain a motion to amend today's agenda to add item 6C that is on your agenda. It should say new. We just need to add that. So I'm asking to add that item to today's agenda. Additionally, I'm asking to remove item 7 from our agenda. And I would also ask to remove item 10B from our agenda today.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussions, Ms. Page.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Lopez. When you said for 6C, what was the item?
To add item 6C, which is the graduation dates, 2023 graduation dates, so add that to today's agenda formally.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now I'd entertain a motion to approve today's amended agenda, please.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, board. We'll jump right into our agenda, and first up would ask that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education open the public hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 2022-2023 school year. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. The floor is now open for any public hearing on the agenda today to exceed the revenue neutral rate for 2022-2023. Seeing no one for comment and no one online. Okay, thank you. Would entertain a motion to close the public hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would now entertain a motion that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education open public hearing for the 2022-2023 budget.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would now open the floor up for any comment or for our public hearing on the budget. Seeing none in person in the boardroom, seeing none online. Would now entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the 2022-2023 budget.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Miss, any questions or discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda item, it is recommended, would entertain a motion recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate as published in the Record News.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Would any questions or discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, no.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next agenda item, it is recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the 2022-2023 USD 500 budget based on the findings presented in the Buildings Needs Assessment, State Assessment Review, and discussions among the Board of Education, including the academic data and progress of each building, district curriculum, staffing needs, as well as other important items that are critical to the success of our students, as submitted by Mr. Steve Lilly, Chief Operations Officer, Tracy Kaiser, Executive Director of Business and Finance, and as recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield, Superintendent of Schools.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Lopez?
Yes, Dr. Nguyen.
What is the total budget amount? I don't see it in the attachments.
Ms. Kaiser will tell you that.
The total budget is on the notice of hearing at the bottom, 480,005,000. Sorry, it's on the bottom of the notice of hearing, 480,005,000.
I'm sorry, is there notice of hearing included on these attachments?
It is Code 99, it's the very last documents on the whole code.
Thank you.
Looks like it's page 142.
Thank you. Additional questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, I vote no because, once again, the majority of this board has not reviewed closely the department budgets, but merely rubber stamped the administrator's recommendations for over a $484,500,000 budget. From the beginning of this process, I have been fully transparent. I've openly stated that I wanted the board to look for cost savings to either reduce the total amount, thereby reducing the tax burden, or finding cost savings to redirect the students' education. I was met with no action. I vote no because while the board did review the needs assessments completed by building principals, looking closely at staff needs, the board accepted the administration's claim that since other districts were not following the law, we didn't have to either. Or the administration felt that because the law required an estimate of time and efforts to promote student reaching proficiency was a gotcha provision. The board accepted the administration's answer to the state law, the long-range 2031 solution. While it may be doable by 2031, what about student achievement now? Majority of the board accepted this short-term commitment in hopes of improving student success. I vote no because the board does not comply with state law by requiring the administration to spend certain funds on state-approved best practices in order to address students' educational shortcomings. I have mentioned this past as well as present administration. I stand and demand accountability for the community and the taxpayer, and it appears that the board refuses to take a stand and demand full accountability from administration, past and present. I stand ready to answer questions, to provide any answers and verification for all my statements. I vote no.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Motion carries. I would just to clarify, I would just say, so that the public does know, the full board did have access to all of the budget information. All budget items were provided to the full board and to the public. Those were made available to the full board at several board meetings, and the board had opportunities to provide questions to administration and staff. And so I do just want to make sure that everyone does understand that the board did have access to the budget information and documents, and had the opportunity to ask several questions, which the board did, and we had several conversations, and administration did offer recommendations and responses to those questions that were asked. So I just want to make it clear that we did have the opportunity to review and had access to all of the documents that were presented to the board, including the budgets, the department budgets, and the full budget from the board. So just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Lopez, I did not say we didn't have access. I said we did not fully review. All of our meetings were public. They were documented. So the person who would question verification of what I'm saying can go back and see. So I don't disagree with you. You don't disagree with me. The fact remains. Thank you. I vote no.
Thank you. We'll continue on with our agenda. Next up on our agenda is our consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve today's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
I'd like to set aside F and G, please.
Thank you. Would those who made the motion make a friendly amendment to your motion to approve the consent agenda minus items F and G?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So the motion has been amended, Ms. Smith, to approve today's consent agenda minus items F and G. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Would bring up item F, Dr. Nguyen.
I just think it's important that if this program is at how many schools? 21, I think, that the public understands the importance of it and we just don't slide over it.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Any other questions or discussion on item F?
So could the person responsible just share some of the success? This is Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, Ms. Rodriguez, and she is coming to the microphone.
I didn't understand that's what you were going to follow
Yes,
up.
I'm sorry, yes. Hello, Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Board. So we've been utilizing Imagine Learning for several years. We, within the last 3 years, have moved to strategize the way that it's implemented for our students. One of the things that we did previously was we had a grant with KU that was funding that specific to our English language learners, but as we're building out what MTSS model is ensuring that we utilize the tool of Imagine Learning. We actually met with them today, curriculum and instruction and myself, to talk about where does that fit in the all means all. Imagine Learning focuses on the vocabulary enhancement, both academic and social. It allows for fluency, and then it supports that English language learner development. But what we know now from the tool is there are some specific diagnostics for fluency that have just been opened up for those schools that use it. Where we see most success is those buildings that have a building-wide access when it's not specific to English language learners, but it is promoted for our ESL students. So we'll go into the intervention protocol being created by the MTSS team. So some of the resources would counter something that's focused on phonetic and phonemic awareness, but in terms of comprehension and language access. Does that provide you?
It's probably more important for the public. Is there a chart? We're looking at beautiful charts.
Yes.
Is there one that you would pick out to show people who are watching that this is making a significant impact, as you
Specific
suggest?
to the PowerPoint that was
Correct.
attached? Yeah, I can pull it up, for sure.
One would think you would want the public to see the data. That
Absolutely.
is proving your point.
I don't know that they had it set up.
It was not uploaded because.
Yeah, I don't think it was
is,
uploaded.
It was a consent item,
Mm-hmm.
and it typically would be included, the data, when we give our annual ESL report. But Mr. Lopez or anybody that's in Zoom could share their screen to show the,
Just choose one. You're familiar with the PowerPoint because you
Yeah,
made it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
what
If
would be
we-
the most important one that shows to the parent, to the community, that this is, and what is the cost of this, these licenses total?
Because we're adding, in February, 15 schools were adopted, so we're adding the rest of the schools so that all elementary schools have access to it, and including the schools that KU no longer covers because that grant has
Right, so-
run out.
You said about 21 schools?
Yes.
So it's,
Off the top of my head, I couldn't, I'd have to go back and look at
that's
like what the
okay.
exact
Just look
cost
at,
is.
look at the
But
success.
the benchmark literacy gains, that's going to be that slide 11. It's going to show from the start of the year and to now, when a school uses it with fidelity, that students are moving from one, they're moving up by each benchmark. So the more, what we focused on this last year was ensuring that there was engagement of students. And then also when we look at our benchmark oral vocabulary gains, that's really where we see our students excel, and that would be that slide 13. And that's really specific to our language learners, building that academic vocabulary.
Okay, so now that they can see slide
Mm-hmm.
11, you probably want to go back and explain your red, yellow, and green.
Yeah. So what we saw over time was the red is those 2 grade levels below over the course of a year. And some of the schools represented in this data did not use it until February. So we're seeing a smaller snapshot of that time. But they were able to increase to the next level, which would be 1 grade level to on level and then above. That blue represents above grade level. So if we focus on first grade, you'll see a majority of our students are hitting that grade level track by the usage throughout the year and then from that February benchmark. And when we look at slide 13, it's also going to show the increase of vocabulary. And specific when we're looking at 5th grade, the advanced vocabulary that students are interacting with, they're gaining that access through the tool and that comprehension and practice with fluency.
So, Mr. Lopez, one would think that regardless of the fact that it was on the consent calendar, we would want to show success. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Is there a motion to approve the Imagine Learning and
So moved.
Literacy?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further questions or discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the Qualtrics renewal, item G. Dr. Nguyen?
Same idea. If this is significant, if it says why it's important, it enhances the department's ability to increase community engagement feedback, share with us.
So I'd invite Dr. Conrad, and he is coming to the microphone.
It says it increases opportunities for secondary students to explore careers and prepare for college. Isn't that what we're about? So thank you, sir.
That is what we're about, and this actually gives us an opportunity to explore a better way to gather the feedback from our students and how we are delivering services to them when it comes to college and career readiness. We're able to use some ESSER funds short-term in order to build it out and to see it work in process, and we're able to free up some funds in the future by moving some stuff around, by discontinuing a few things to better improve these services here. And so I think this is something that is innovative, that we're able to partner with Qualtrics with to create something pretty special to be able to track how we serve our students and improve that process.
Thank you, Dr. Conrad. Any additional questions for Dr. Conrad?
Well, so how does it increase community engagement and feedback?
So we still use the platform right now as a survey platform that we survey the community. We will still keep that component of it, and so we'll continue to use that component the same way that we always have, but we're adding additional components on there specifically for our students in regards to the services that they receive for college and career.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Thank you, Dr. Conrad. Is there a motion to approve item G on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
Again, if it is to be success, is something to increase opportunities for our students, I thought we should highlight it, tell the community it's there. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we will hear from our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
Good evening, everyone. I just have a few things that I want to highlight this evening. This morning, I participated in the district's Rolling Rally event today to kick off the partnership with Special Olympics, the Special Olympics Kansas Unified Champion. This rally included 12 of our elementary schools throughout the district. The Unified PE is about unifying all students regardless of their ability levels and using sports as a catalyst for social inclusion, attitude, and behavior change. I want to thank all the schools and staff for being a part of this, and our high school students from Sligo and other schools that was a part of this rally that delivered this exciting opportunity to our elementary schools. The board is invited to join the celebration of Banneker's Elementary 50th anniversary on Thursday, September 22nd at 5:30 p.m. There will be a parade that kicks off the day of events at 9:30 a.m., followed by an evening program that will start at 5:30 p.m. If you have any questions, please contact Jocelyn Strickland Egan's at Banneker Elementary. This week is National Arts and Education Week from September 11th through September 17th. Grab your paintbrush and join us as we celebrate. I want to congratulate the custodial staff of Gloria Ruelis and Emmy Pearson for being selected as the Buildings of the Month. The custodial staffs were chosen for going above and beyond to ensure a clean and safe environment in their schools for all. And the operations department recognizes a different building once a month, so we want to take the time to thank all of our custodians and those in our operations department. Several of our high schools will be recognized as a 2022 winner in the Kansas FAFSA Challenge, that's FAFSA. Wyandotte High School is being recognized in the 6A category among the most improved completion percentage over the last year. Sumner Academy has been recognized in the 5A category for the highest completion percentage and most improved completion percentage over the last year. And Washington High School has also been recognized for the most improved completion percentage over the last year. The Kansas FAFSA Challenge is a statewide FAFSA completion competition among Kansas high schools. Also, just a reminder about the upcoming State of the District Address that I will be a part of in partnership with the Kansas City, Kansas School Foundation for Excellence. This will occur on Friday, September 23rd at 8:30 a.m. And I want to thank Krista Watson and the Foundation Board for their continued support of our goals and initiatives in the district. This month, starting September 15th, is Hispanic Heritage Month, and this year's theme is Unidos, inclusivity for a stronger nation. So we will be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th. And finally, just a reminder, Family Advocacy Days are this week beginning tomorrow, Wednesday, September 14th through Friday, September 16th. There will be no school on Friday, September 16th for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stubblefield. Just a few items that I'll share. Today, Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, celebrating 913 Day, and you should visit the website 913day.org for a little more information. Actually, there's a community celebration happening as we speak between now and 8 p.m. at the Vernon School at 3436 North 27th Street. So if anyone's watching and wants to jump off of our board meeting and head over to the community event and celebration, I'd encourage you to go do that and celebrate. There are vendors and community event, and it's a great opportunity to celebrate our community, to celebrate our vendors. Earlier today, they had a tour of the Quindaro ruins, and today really is a day to honor and celebrate the work and all the great things that are happening in Wyandotte County. So please visit 913day.org to get a little more information. And it doesn't just have to be on one day, right? We can celebrate all of our vendors and all the great things happening in our community all year round. And so just special shout out to all of those who planned and executed today's celebrations, including Chevette Dinkins, who's one of our staff persons who helped to chair the committee for today's event. So thank you to everybody involved. Just a couple of other announcements. Again, thank you to all of our board members and staff who participated in the Dotversity Parade a couple Saturdays ago over on Central Avenue. It was a great event, fun time. Our board members were out there passing out candy, and so was our staff to all of those on the parade route. And it was just a great opportunity for us to get engaged in the community. So that was a lot of fun. So hopefully next year we'll look forward to it. And again, that also celebrated the diversity, the richness of diversity within Wyandotte County. It's beautiful to see all of the flags from all around the country, or all around the world, I'm sorry, represented in the parade. So great turnout by our board and staff to participate in that. I just want to say thank you to all of our board members who continue to participate in our board development process. We had a meeting last week, I believe it was, and it felt like a 4-hour marathon, but it was a great conversation and discussion about how we can continue to guide the vision and the mission and the goals of our school districts so that we can be an excellent school district, not just here locally, but nationally. So just thank you for your continued commitment and your dedication and the discussion that we had. Please, you should have received an email from Ms. Smith looking at future dates to continue the conversation so that we can continue to guide our school district's vision and mission. Please make sure you have a chance to look at those dates and respond to Ms. Smith. Just want to give recognition to the JROTC at Washington High School, who put on an excellent ceremony this past Friday honoring and commemorating 9/11, the events that happened that day. years ago. So just thank you to everyone who participated, who put that on, that JROTC, all the students, cadets that participated. They did an amazing job. I know there are pictures on our website as well if you weren't able to participate. Just a beautiful ceremony. Thank you to everybody who was there, paying honor and tribute to all who have served and who continue to serve in our community and in our country. Thank you for what you do, and thank you to those cadets and to Washington High School for hosting us on that day, and to all of our board members and staff that participated. Thank you for being there as well. Again, just also want to say thank you to all of those who participated in the Alfred Fairfax Academy ribbon cutting that happened last week as well. It was a great day to celebrate that. Again, thank you to our renaming committee and to all the members of that committee, board members and committee members who participated to make sure that that happened and that we could honor Alfred Fairfax's legacy in Kansas City. So we're just grateful for that, and it was great to see our students participating in that great day as well. Thank you to our communications team, Mr. Edwin Birch. He and his team have been busy this month. It seems like every month you all have a lot going on, so just thank you for helping to put on all of these events as well. September is also Hunger Action Month, so just want to say thank you to our nutrition department and for the work that you all are doing to make sure that our kids aren't going hungry while they're here at school, and to everyone doing a lot of work to make sure that those who are hungry have a place to eat and have access to resources to make sure that they are not going hungry. So as we celebrate and find ways to combat hunger in not just in Kansas City and Wyandotte County in our country, it's important to recognize that there are folks who are still going without a meal, and so we have a responsibility to them as well to make sure that we do what we can. So let's keep that in mind this month as we celebrate, or as we recognize Hunger Action Month in September. Lastly, I'll just say Dr. Stubblefield mentioned Hispanic Heritage Month. I do just want to give a quick shout out to our students who are participating in the Cambio para Cambio campaign this month for Hispanic Heritage Month. We have several students in the Kansas City, Kansas School District who are participating in that in partnership with the Hispanic Development Fund. So great job, and we're grateful for you. So with that, I'll open it up to any comments from our school board members. Ms. Humphries.
I wanted to remind everyone, if you haven't heard, fall sports have started, and it has been a wonderful experience to see how our parents and community are coming out to support our kids. Even the JV games, which usually don't have a lot of turnout, parents are there, community members are there, and it's wonderful to see that. I want to thank everyone who comes out whenever they can. Even if you're not a sports person, you can sit there and watch the kids interact with their coaches and the parents, how proud they are and excited to see their kids. It's a great place to people watch and get a real good sense of community. And then also tomorrow night at J.C. Harmon, from 5 to 7, they have invited community members and alumni to come to an open house to see how Harmon has changed in 50 years. So from 5 to 7 tomorrow, drop by Harmon to see all the good things that we have going on at our school.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. Ms. Drew.
Just like to say that since our last board meeting, I did have an opportunity to attend the Schlegel Banding Together that was sponsored by KMBC with Johnny Rollins here. On August 26th and 27th, I went to Topeka, Kansas as a representative for my district for the KASB board and legislative meeting. And there were several topics that they were talking about that will be coming up for our convention that is going to take place in November. And so I have information, and I'm going to give it to our board clerk so that she can make sure that each board member will get a copy of it, as well as Dr. Stubblefield, so you can find out what some of the topics that they were talking about. I did go to the Fairfax Academy ribbon cutting ceremony. And then, of course, we had 2 board development meetings that I've attended. On September the 8th, I went to the Kansas City, Kansas Women Chamber Network, where we met with several people women who have been elected within Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, and met and talked with them. I did go to the Washington High School ROTC Memorial Ceremony, and this on Monday, I attended the public library on 6th and Minnesota, where they are beginning to implement a proposed plan to bring to the board about making some changes with the public library. And of course, this morning, I did attend the KCKPS Special Olympics Kansas Rolling Rally. I attended 7 out of the 12 schools, and the events were just fully enjoyed by all of the students in the elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drew. Any other board members? Ms. Page?
Thank you. I had the opportunity also to attend the Women in Politics session, the 2 special board meetings. I went to Quindaro Central and Fairfax. I didn't make the ribbon cutting, but I made it up to the school. And I'm proud of our staff. They're hanging in there. They're trying to make it work. And we should applaud everybody because they're doing the best that they can. And it's not easy, but we just want them to know that we do appreciate what they do. Our administrators, our teachers, all our staff, and the kids, everybody's trying to give 100%. And that's all we ask, is that we do our very best. So we need to keep lifting them up because things aren't easy. We have a shortage of workers, so people are having to double up and do things, and we just need to encourage them as much as we possibly can. Keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Dr. Nguyen?
Thank you. I also, same Saturday in Topeka, there was a KSB Board of Directors meeting, and out of everything, there's going to be a change in the platform for access to the workshops. So more information probably should come to Ms. Smith on that.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. I just really quickly, briefly, I forgot to mention at the Diversity Parade, I just want to give a shout out to our marching bands. There were several of our schools represented, and it was really cool to see them all performing at Bethany Park. And then towards the end of their performances, all of the bands came together into one large band and performed together, and it was pretty amazing to see all the different colors and schools playing together. So just shout out to the marching band, to the students, and to those directors who put that together. So thank you. Excuse me. Okay, next on our agenda, community comment. We have no comments today. But again, if you have any comment, you can sign up with our board clerk on the Monday before the board meeting. So please make sure that you get on the agenda. Moving on with our agenda, next are board updates and approvals. All of these items, board members, we have seen previously. They are up for potential action today if the board chooses. The first one is our junior achievement membership. So I will pass it on to Dr. Stubblefield or open to any questions from the board.
As you saw previously, the junior achievement curriculum is one way that will increase the number of students who will be on the path to obtain a Diploma Plus. So if there are any questions, either Dr. Irving or Dr. Fernandez-Flores can answer them for you.
I would entertain a motion to approve the contract for junior achievement membership as submitted today.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next agenda item, it's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the MOU for Royals Charities Crown Schools as submitted by Darcy Swan, Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Judith Campbell, Deputy Superintendent, and Dr. Anna Stubblefield, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yes, Ms. Page.
I have one, and I noticed, are they going to provide transportation for the kids to go to the games? I couldn't remember if I saw that or not.
Yes, I see Ms. Swan back there nodding her head yes, so I believe so. Yes, they will be providing transportation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item are our 2023 graduation dates. It's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the graduation dates for May 2023, as submitted by Dr. Bilbo Irvin, Executive Director of High Schools, is recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
Just one. Were we able to survey the community? Were they okay with this? I didn't ask it early. I apologize, but I was just wondering, did we get a chance to get some things out?
We did not survey the community. We spoke with the principals based off of the past feedback from the community. The greater concern if graduation was held during the day on a weekday, but we did not survey the community and we did not hear any feedback just in general once the dates were put out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Win, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Very exciting to see some graduation dates, and we've got those on the calendar, and our seniors and families can plan. Thank you. All right, our next agenda item, again, we removed item 7, the Foundation for Excellence, so we will come up to our board reports. These are for informational purposes tonight, board. The first one is the Kansas Education Systems of Accreditation, or KCSA, Year 5 Cycle Update. We have Ms. Lisa Walker here with us to share some information.
All right, good evening, President Lopez, Vice President Clark, board members, Dr. Stubblefield. I am here tonight on behalf of Dr. Judith Campbell, Matt Anderson, and members of the KCSA District Leadership Team, as well as outcome team members, to give you an update regarding the KCSA accreditation process. As you know, the KCSA accreditation process is the Kansas Education Systems of Accreditation. It is a 5-year cycle in which all districts in the state of Kansas engage in. And last year, we concluded our Year 4 Part 2. As a reminder, schools and districts were given the opportunity to extend whatever year they were in the accreditation cycle for an additional year because of COVID. And so we had a Year 4 Part 1 and a Year 4 Part 2. You'll recall that last year we did share the KCKPS Year 4 report with the board, and that has been linked into tonight's presentation, so you again have a copy of that for your review. And then we came to you last year prior to the outside visitation team visit to give you highlights on what would be expected on the day of our visit. As a reminder, we started our day with campus visits to Wyandotte High School and Mark Twain Elementary. That provided an opportunity for the KCSA OVT to see some of the systems level processes that we have been putting into place to strengthen core academic and SEL instruction, as well as college and career preparedness activities. So it really gave them an opportunity to see how all of our systems level work is transferring all the way down to the student desk. Then we returned back to central office, and our outcome team leaders and outcome champions shared highlights regarding specific work in each of the 5 results areas. And then the OVT had a chance to meet and talk about our progress and do a little bit of deliberation. And then they came back at the end of the day and provided us with some initial feedback for our KCKPS team. So shortly after that outside visitation team visit, we did receive a draft of the OVT's summary report, and then our OVT chair submitted the final OVT summary report to KSDE on July the 12th. And that has been included tonight for your review as well, so that you can read all of that information. So what is it going to look like as we transition into Year 5, our final year in the accreditation cycle? Well, at the end of this year, if we think about a little bit of backwards design, the district's progress over the entire 5-year cycle will be reviewed by the Accreditation Review Council. We call them the ARC, and they will make a determination on whether the district is accredited, conditionally accredited, or unaccredited. And during this final year, we will continue to focus on those 5 results outcome areas of social emotional factors that we measure locally, kindergarten readiness, individual plans of study, high school graduation, as well as post-secondary success. And then we will also continue to focus on our 2 process goals that the district selected at the beginning of our 5-year accreditation cycle, and those will be relationships and relevance. And then because it is the 5th year and the final year in the accreditation cycle, we will also then be addressing all of those foundational structures, and you see those there at the bottom of that document. So it's going to be a full and busy year for us as we get ready for this. We're going to continue to align all of our work and outcome data to our district continuous improvement plans. That is our grounding graphic, our spheres of influence that I know you have seen before, starting with the state accreditation and then working all the way down to those campus school improvement plans. We're going to focus on our 3 priorities that I know you've also seen. The 3 priorities are going to allow us to pull all of the work into alignment, positively impact our outcomes across all of those continuous improvement plans you just saw, as well as ultimately enable the district to reach our North Star by 2031, which is 100% of students that graduate will graduate with a Diploma Plus credential. So how are we organizing to do the work in year 5? Well, the KCKPS district leadership team did a detailed review of that OBT summary report, and again, you have it there to look at. We took all of the recommendations and feedback, and we made sure that we've pulled them into the 5 outcome areas, as well as to departmental work, because some of that feedback is very targeted to a results area, and other feedback is really targeted to more departmental, broader work. Our KCKPS DLT meets monthly to review and discuss the progress in each of the 5 outcome areas, as well as progress occurring from departmental work. You have a link to that annual calendar, so at any time you can check up and see what are we doing each month and how are we making sure that monthly we are moving towards that final accreditation visit. And then, of course, we have one-to-one meetings with outcome area leaders and teams to discuss in depth more the planning and organizing and facilitating of the work that's particular to their respective area. And then, as you can see, our KCKPS DLT will begin to meet more frequently. As we get closer to the visit, we'll do bi-weekly meetings, and then in the month of March, we'll meet weekly just to make sure that we are on track. To address that broader work that falls across various departments, our leadership and learning team, which is comprised of all of the instructional executive directors, meets regularly, and that is an opportunity for us to discuss the work then that aligns to KCKPS and our district continuous improvement plans, and is work that we share across departments and requires collaboration and teaming in order to really come together to align the work in an integrated fashion. And then, as needed, small work groups occur between various department leaders to go deeper into specific activities or areas of work that we know need to get accomplished in order to support our district continuous improvement plans. Of course, while KCKPS accreditation is a kind of an isolated event when you think about the accreditation itself, it is very much integrated when we think about the work that it involves. So on the screen, you see the various ways in which the board stays updated regarding the integration of KCKPS work. There are board items that are aligned to KCKPS outcomes. There are requests and proposals for academic, social, emotional learning curricula adoptions and purchases. We often are talking about platforms that we are using to monitor the fidelity of implementation of our systems level work, as well as our outcome data, both collected here locally at the district level and then from state assessments. And then, of course, there are partnerships that we seek to engage in that really strengthen our outcomes. Some of those more notable ones are Attendance Works, KU Gear Up, and Prep KC. Then you receive departmental reports to the board, as well as student outcome data reports. You've already had some of those this year. I think Dr. Conrad gave one at the last meeting. So you'll continue to be updated regarding outcomes for attendance, behavioral, social, emotional, academics, as well as Diploma Plus and graduation. As we get closer to the end of this school year, you will again be provided with our Year 5 report. We're in the process of developing that each month as we go through the year. And then, of course, we would always welcome you to engage with us and participate in the Year 5 visit, which is scheduled for March the 29th of 2023. On the screen again, you see the members of our outside visitation team. This team is made up of educational practitioners from districts across the state of Kansas, as well as from state and national educational organizations. All of these individuals have completed the KCKPS OVT training, and you can see that they represent larger districts across the state, some of which are similar to our district when you think about demographics, and some that are quite different. And we think that the diversity of their perspectives from both similar districts as well as those that are unlike us really push us to think about what's possible, and the interactions that we engage in really help us to ultimately improve our student outcomes through improving our systems level frameworks. So the KCKPS district and building team members are really energized, and I say that sincerely. That's really the truth from the positive feedback that we received last year around the work that occurred in Year 4, and that was recognized, and we felt really good about that. And we're excited to continue the strategic planning and facilitating of the work that we know, again, will yield strong outcomes for the district and ultimately result in the district being accredited at the end of the school year. So that concludes the update on the accreditation process, and I'll pause there in the event there are any questions or comments regarding this work.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Would open up the floor for any questions for her at this time.
I do have a question, and I'm trying to put together like timing and when things are presented to us and make it all make sense. And if I'm trying to make it make sense, I can only imagine what other people are doing. So when we talk about the time frame and we put years upon these things, as presentations are coming to us and as we're talking about this more, I would like, this is just me personally, for it to be more intentional on how we talk about the progress and connecting it back maybe, so that, because those time frames are so long, and then how do we just kind of connect things back? And I don't know how to do that. I'm just thinking about all the information that comes our way and all the different tests and scores that come our way, and how do we connect that progress or when we're not progressing back to this presentation, back to KCKPS, back to the results, back to the timeline. So it's more of a statement.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback for us. I think we can certainly always work to look at making more explicit connections to the things that we're requesting or the reports that we're giving to you, and how they're related to either a specific outcome area or the relationships or relevance goal or one of the foundational structures. So that's something we can certainly think on.
Thank you for following my thoughts.
I did. You're welcome.
Thank you. Additional questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. If you have questions that come up, please feel free to send those along to our administration. We'll make sure we get responses to you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to let her leave. I know they're going to visit on the 29th. When will we actually get whether we're accredited? What's our status? How long does that take?
It depends on what they have in a report, but it's typically a couple of weeks. It could be months. Is it a couple of weeks?
It's actually more months. I think this
Okay.
last year, it was the middle of the summer, beginning of August, before districts last year that were up for accreditation actually knew the outcome. They knew what was recommended, but it had to go to the state board as well. So probably the end of July, beginning of August.
Okay, thank you.
So just for those that are online that may not have been able to hear Ms. Walker, her response was sometimes it can take up to several months before we get a response back. So it may be the end of July or August when we hear a response. Thank you. All right, our next agenda item is Project Crecer with, and I see Ms. Rodriguez coming forward, so we'll hear from Ms. Rodriguez as well today. This is for informational purposes as well tonight, Board. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Board President, Madam Vice President, Board, and Dr. Stubblefield. I welcome the opportunity to share an update from the Department of ESL on behalf of the district around Project Crecer. Crecer is to grow in Spanish, as that's the goal of initiating and growing a dual language program here in Kansas City, Kansas Public School District. So as we work through, I want to begin and share the progress and intended next steps for dual language programming. I also want to ensure that we're anchored in our vision of becoming a top 10 school district in the nation. I'm of the utmost, my opinion is always that dual language and language learning is one of the most innovative practices that we have in instruction, especially for our language learners, but research also supports that. And by bringing an innovative teaching practice that's rooted in culturally sustaining pedagogy as well as a holistic approach to language and literacy development, we'll make strides to that vision and gearing ourselves to that North Star that by 2031, 100% of our students will graduate with that Diploma Plus. Through our planning process, we have ensured that we have alignment to that North Star of 2031. The dual language will sit as part of the MTSS process. So meaning those students that participate, whether they're taking a Spanish or an English, will all have the same instruction at that Tier 1. Again, research shows that focusing on a student's first language or another language added to their linguistic repertoire does show that they will outperform monolingual peers. So it benefits all of our students, not just our English language learners, but our students who maybe navigate another language as well as the languages, the English language with our monolingual students. Through that, we've made sure that we continue to align to curriculum and instruction, that we're making choices with the curriculum and evidence-based resources and using data to drive the decisions. We're also aligned to those thematic themes, thinking about theme 1, inclusion of our students and building culture and community, as well as our theme 2, syllabi literacy is an access point for students to engage within that Diploma Plus. And then theme 3, the welcoming of our parents and families, bringing cultures into the school, not just the culture of the languages, but also engaging the other cultures. One of the things dual language brings and provides is a framework for the district and for schools to be able to really engage in multiple cultures. And as we know, we're one of the most diverse districts here in Kansas as well as in the nation. So being able to celebrate that in a holistic approach. And then it engages our parents, knowing that we have several of our families that navigate over 63 languages. It puts us forward and conscious of the languages that are out there and puts in place strategies for us to be able to engage. And then our theme 4, attracting and retaining our family, retaining employees, bringing in an initiative that is focused on a different type of teaching as well as focusing on the staff that we have currently in the district that we could put through a pipeline to be bilingual teachers. So that brings us to Project Crecer, and the vision is to create a dual language K-8 program rooted in culturally responsive, equitable, and social constructivist education and reading, with a focus to provide a learning environment that embraces and promotes the success of all students, adding language to their linguistic repertoire and high academic achievement. The long-term goal for the district is to ensure that we're creating a pipeline and a real strong, solid framework for language learning within the district. While this says K-8, it really has huge implications on our secondary. Thinking about the language offerings that we have at high school, a student going through a K-8 model is ready for AP level of language as well in their L1, which would be Spanish, is the language that we'll be starting the pilot with, and then focusing on the English language. It provides some access point to the syllabi literacy, and I'll share some data on where we're at with the syllabi literacy in just a minute, but it also increases our partnerships. We are in partnership with K-State, specifically the Center for Intercultural and Multilingual Advocacy. We're actually waiting on approval of a grant that was submitted in April. We still haven't heard anything, but what that grant provides us as a district is additional funding for things like professional development and access to being able to pay for licensure pathways for our staff. Regardless of if we are accepted with that grant, we will still have that partnership with K-State to provide those pathways, and then we'll we'll seek other external fundings to be able to pay for that coursework that the teachers need and support them through their licensure process. One of the things that we've also been able to find is that a lot of our staff have teaching licenses from other countries, specifically Spanish-speaking countries. And so with our partnership with Dr. Socorro Herrera, we are designing a coursework that would allow those teachers, or those former teachers that have those licenses in other countries, to be able to bring those over to the United States and transfer them. So again, going back to what our strategic goals are and where we're going, that's a way to take those staff members that are here that are maybe working in a role of an instructional aide and give them the credentialing that they need to be able to teach within our school district. And then it also is going to increase our partnership with the Center for Applied Linguistics and two of the top trainers and advocates for dual language programming. The goals and objectives are the instructional planning for scaffolding for English language learners integrated in the listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and a development on really rigorous content. That's all of that MTSS work that we're doing. What do our students get at that tier 1 of instruction? Regardless, again, if they're in the English side or the Spanish side, we would be pushing forward a 50-50 model, meaning we'll have some kindergartners taking instruction half of the day in Spanish, half of the day in English, focusing on the curriculum that's been adopted already. Also, culturally responsive and biliteracy development and school readiness. We're increasing that family engagement and those touch points with our families. And then there's also the pre and post assessments for teachers and students. Things such as our kindergarten readiness, our ASQ, FastBridge, the CAP ELA scores, and our CALPA scores. When we develop a student's L1 or add a language to their linguistic repertoire, their success for proficiency on the CALPA assessment really does increase. And then we'll be bringing in some Spanish assessments to engage our students with and also validate what our success is. And then opening opportunities, like I shared before, with K-State and other universities for certification and training. The data that we currently have within the district is that we serve over 8,000 students, and I pulled the numbers today. Since the start of school year, so July when enrollment opened, we've identified 431 pre-K students for ESL services. We've identified 954 students between K-12 grade. So that means we're already about 1,000 extra students added to that 8,000 number. Our total student count for students receiving ESL services is 8,347, and that number doesn't account the number of students that we've already exited based on proficiency. 37% of our student 37% of our student population is identified as an English language learner, whether it's Spanish or another language, and 56% of that population identifies as Hispanic. Our households across the district speak over 63 languages. Just to highlight the department, we do support 6 of the languages that are spoken. And the most common language is spoken is Spanish, with 66% of our ESL students identifying as those Spanish speakers. So then we run into the seal of biliteracy. This is last year's data from the 2020-2021 school year. The newest seal of biliteracy scores have not been released yet. That usually comes out around December. And what we have found is that here in Kansas City, Kansas, we've awarded a total of 38 certificates. The way to access that is that at high school level, students take an English assessment showing proficiency there, and then they take another assessment taking into account proficiency in their second language. Then it's awarded between a silver and a gold. Silver is like an intermediate low to an intermediate mid score, and then gold is an intermediate advanced level. We are not the top contenders in the state, but when we focus on a K-8 and thinking about that high school, these numbers can definitely increase, and the languages that we offer can also increase. The seal of biliteracy can be awarded for Swahili, Arabic, Burmese, all of those other languages that we have. We just don't have those access points built yet. So that's part of the planning for dual language. is to increase those pieces. And again, that's a credential for our students to be able to take that and have an advanced placement assessment that they can put on their resume or take to their university. This summer, we were able to provide a small pilot. We used an instructional framework of immersion, meaning 100 to 90% of the time was taught in Spanish. When we bring dual language in, again, it would be a 50-50 model, so that day would be split up. The reason we used immersion was just for the time frame, and really our goal was to see if students could navigate content in the target language. We pulled students from Silver City and New Stanley. They were in 3rd and 4th grade, and we used the Apple assessment to test their language proficiency in Spanish, and that tests within the 4 domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We plan to invite those students back to our Saturday Language Academy and focus on their language progression in Spanish, and those students, because we did have a few newcomers in the group, their parents would be invited to take adult ESL courses. And just to highlight, it really was to see, can students navigate learning math and science and social studies in Spanish, and do they have the stamina for it? Our scores will show the orange is the post-assessment and the blue is the pre-assessment. We assessed in all 4 domains for the pre-assessment, but we didn't for the post-assessment. And the rationale there is because really we wanted to see the focus on the reading and the writing, because we already knew where students were with their speaking and their listening. We were able to capture a lot of that data anecdotally and see that in the processes that happened in the classroom. So we were able to see a little bit of a jump within the 4 weeks in their reading scores. You'll notice that that first column, that below N1, we only have 3 in the orange. That means that some of the students that tested did not have enough reading proficiency in Spanish to be scored. But when they took the post-assessment, they were able to get something that was scorable by the Apple assessment. So then when we look at our writing scores, again, the blue is the pre-assessment, the orange is the post-assessment. These don't look as favorable, and that's to be expected because of the time frame and the age of the learner. Typically, the Apple assessment is done over the course of a semester or year. We did it within 4 weeks. It's a computerized assessment. It's the same prompts, and the cognitive level and stamina of a 3rd and 4th grader is they're going to click right through, and they're going to just type whatever they typed before. And again, doing this in my previous district, these are the assessment scores we would anticipate to see based on the age of the learner and the content they were learning. We also followed the ACTFL guidelines, making sure that all of the content was provided in that target language. So our next steps are to identify dual language schools within the Harmon cluster. Harmon was selected because they have the most ideal student population in terms of what a 50-50 looks like. So it's not just 50-50 of the content that's being taught, but it's also the student demographic, so that we have a 2-way immersion program. We have our English-speaking students or students of other languages learning Spanish, and then we have our ESL students who are Spanish speakers learning English. So it evens the playing field for all of our students. Buildings have not been identified because we're still waiting on the grant funding. If we move forward with dual language and it's only funded by our district, we have the capacity to do 1 or 2 schools. When we are notified about the grant funding, that will build up to 5 schools that we would be able to begin and initiate with. Then we'll also continue our planning with curriculum instruction, diversity, equity, inclusion, DERA, and Diploma Plus, finalize our instructional framework for dual language, and hire a dual language coordinator. Focused on recruiting and hiring teachers for the Spanish instruction, and then engaging our parents in some family event nights, engaging more of their request and their feedback within what should that strand look like within the school. And professional development. That professional development starts in things like today when we're talking about the syllabi literacy, naming what the model is, talking about the assessment, and then goes from the leadership level to principals, instructional coaches, and teachers. And our final benchmark is to enroll kindergarten students for the 2023-2024 dual language cohort. What questions might I answer?
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. This is really exciting information that you shared today, and I'll just say that this was a point of conversation during our board development last week. So thank you for the information that you've shared. Ms. Page.
When will you know whether you're going to get the grant? How soon?
Great question. I believe that Dr. Herrera was going to try to join. She is in Europe right now, but it was my understanding we were supposed to know by August 15th, but the federal government is moving a little slow, and they haven't released those numbers yet. So really, we have budgeted for it. What happens when K-State is granted means we have quicker access to trainers, and they'll come and do a lot of the heavy work with professional development, and then increase the number of staff that we can train at one time.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
I am actually here. We should be hearing in the next couple of weeks, from what I understand, and Ms. Rodriguez is absolutely correct that the federal government has been moving very slow, but they have started announcing, making announcements for teacher quality grants and family centers, and so we're in line to hear within the next couple of weeks, I'm assuming. Usually we hear end of July, beginning of August, but I'm very, very excited about the partnership and look forward to collaborating with the district. And hello from Rome.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. Any other additional questions? Ms.
Have
Page,
they
yeah.
been recruiting? Because if we're struggling trying to find teachers, I was just wondering, where are you going to find them? And where do you plan to get them?
Great question. So one of the things we say sometimes on the world language side, if you build it, they will come. They're coming. They're knocking on the doors. There's been a lot of candidates that have wanted to know if we're already in that process of dual language, because that's what they want to teach. And then also, as I shared before, one of the things with our partnership with K-State is being able to fast track some of our Spanish-speaking employees here in the district. Much like we do in special education with the para-teacher pathway, we're working towards that as well.
Ms. Clark.
I do have a question. I need a little bit of help with math and timeline here. So I think I heard you say you were piloting with either 1 to 2 schools, correct me where I'm wrong, and then eventually with the grant, you would roll it out to 5 schools.
Yes, over the course of 5 years.
Over the course of 5 years, which would exclude some schools. And I guess my thought is, like, what's next? Have you all talked about what this would look like to roll it out to all in the future? Have you talked about that at all? Or what timeline you would be basing that off of?
That hasn't been a conversation, but if it pleases the board, we can definitely put together some initial drafts and ideas. I'll just share, based off of my experience and what we see in our neighboring districts, Topeka, Blue Valley, Olathe, they haven't found the magic bullet to build out that pipeline yet.
Okay.
That's not to say that we couldn't look at what that could possibly be. Having each feeder have its own dual language program, and again, within the grant, we have that flexibility as well. If we start, and I'll pause so that Dr. Herrera can kind of talk about the way that it's written in the grant, where we would start with 3 schools and then add another 2 to 3 schools, but that's not set on only Harmon feeder over that course of 5 years.
Okay, and before we take up just too much time with that conversation, understanding that you're, just getting things off the ground, so I'm not asking for a whole lot. I think my next comment or thought would be, like, how do we, if you don't roll it out to all the schools, how do we make it accessible to all students? I think that's one thing we've heard in the past, is when you have these schools that specialize in certain things and others are excluded. So if it's this school has that, how do we just make it accessible to everyone? I just think that would be my follow-up. So no other explanation needed on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? Dr. Nguyen.
Did I hear you allude to a license issue? Some had an alternative licenses or different licenses?
So what we have here in the district, I'll give the example of my data specialist, for example. He was licensed in Cuba and has not been able to move his license over to the United States. And to be very honest, I'm also myself licensed as a Spanish teacher, K-12 and ESL, but I don't hold a elementary license. So while I taught in Blue Valley as a Spanish teacher at the elementary level as a specials, I would not qualify by the state of Kansas to be a kindergarten Spanish teacher. So that's one of the things that we're working on with Dr. Herrera to kind of figure out what coursework our teachers need, those that maybe sit in a category like myself, or those that weren't able to get their license to transfer over, and what that pathway may look like that would meet the standards for the state of Kansas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? If not, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, and thank you, Dr. Herrera, for joining us today, all the way from Rome. We appreciate your time and the information. Again, to board, this is for informational purposes tonight only. Okay, we'll continue with our agenda. Next on our agenda is our policy review, and we'll start with second read for policy IHF. Yes, Ms. Page.
Can we get a 5-minute break?
Absolutely, I'm so sorry. Let's take a quick 10-minute recess, and we'll be back at 6:26. Thank you. right, thank you for giving us a few moments. We will reconvene and restart our meeting. Our next agenda item is our policy review. First up for a second read is policy IHF, and I will pass it on to Mr. Goheen.
So policy IHF is the proposed changes to the graduation requirement. It's up for second read. We do need to add some additional language to this to comply with the Kansas statute on it. Language would go after the first paragraph where it says 2014, and the additional language would read with a minimum enrollment in 7 semesters. And that would prevent somebody from graduating in their junior year. So that's the reason for that change. But with that change, we would recommend it be adopted for a second read.
Thank you, Mr. Goheen. Is there a motion to adopt for second read policy IHF with the recommended language by Mr. Goheen?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark, Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Yolanda Clark.
Wanda Clark, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
With regard to the next policy, this is up for third read. This is the transportation policy. We don't have any additional recommended changes. I did know that there was a couple board members that wanted to see a draft release language for what we would use on the parental release, and I know that Ms. Russell is not here as well, who had some vested interest in the language. So I'm recommending that you table this. We've got a draft of release language, but I didn't get a chance to get that shared with all the board members before the meeting, and rather than have you adopt it without having read that, I think it's better that you get a chance to read that.
So I would also agree to recommend to table the third read of item JGG to give the board a chance, or Mr. Goheen a chance to send that document over and the board to review, and then we will pick this up at the next board meeting. But if there are any specific questions, I'll open it up for any questions.
I had asked, and maybe they sent it, and I didn't look in the right place, but about the practices, were there any schools where they didn't need transportation? You were shaking your head, so I just wanted to.
I remember you saying that. I don't think we've circulated that.
So during the meeting, which I'll go back and share, I did share an email that Ms. Romstad showed, and we were doing some double checking on Harmon, but I can send an updated email. I'll pull it and send it.
So no one needed it?
I will go back and look at the email. I don't remember exactly. It said no one, but we were confirming that Harmon, the information that we had received from the schools was actually accurate. We were double checking on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lilly is about to.
I know that Harmon softball, they are transported, and I did talk to Tammy about that, so that's, I know that was one of the questions, so that is being addressed through transportation, and they are not walking to an off-site facility for that.
And what about the soccer team?
Soccer, I'm not for sure about.
Because if we're going to vote on it, we're looking at the whole year, so I just want to make sure that everybody has a way to and from, and it's going to start with daylight saving time. We don't want our kids in the dark, especially, I don't want the boys, not let alone the girls out there walking if they don't have to.
Thank you. So we'll follow up with that additional information. Ms. Page, thank you for bringing that forward. So, yes, Dr. Nguyen.
That first sentence seems a little quirky, and I don't remember the motion, so I'd like to revisit that motion. What seems quirky to me, and I'm not defining quirky, but transportation shall be available, and that seems like it is tentative instead of provided. So I'm not going to dwell on wordsmithing, but it just seems that when you say shall be available. It doesn't mean that it will be provided.
I think you should dwell on wordsmithing to make sure it's clear to everybody, and I think you brought that up last time, but we didn't have a consensus. So on this language, I think what Dr. Nguyen is bringing up or pointing out is that this is the recommended change from KSB, this part of it, but it makes it seem like that make available is different than sort of you're going to provide it as opposed to making it available. So those are slightly different. It might be a slightly different meaning. So if the board's intent is that you're going to provide it, period, then we probably ought to say that. If the board's intent is that it is made available, that suggests that there is some ability for there to not be transportation for certain activities, is what I
Yeah, but we did have a motion, so we need to go back and check the record.
remember there being a motion. But
I do remember there being a motion that passed.
Okay.
So we need to check that.
all right, I'll double check that then. My apologies if there was a motion.
No problem.
Thank you. So we'll follow up on that as well. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen, and we'll table item third read for policy JGG until our next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is DFAB, and this one, there are no further changes or suggested changes, so we would recommend this for adoption at the third read.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt policy DFAB for third read. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Browning Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So the next policy we have is IF, which is the review of curriculum and book materials, media materials in the district. We've got this one up for third read. There were some we received some suggestions from the library and Ms. Levers. As drafted and written, the policy is designed to apply to library materials and regular curriculum materials in one policy. And Ms. Lever's suggestions, which I think are good suggestions, that there is a slight difference between library materials and curriculum materials, and whether the board would want to still try to encompass all of that in a single policy, or whether you'd want a separate policy for library materials from core curriculum materials for that review process. So I wanted to get input from the board before we made any modifications along that line. For example, if you're talking about the regular public library, that would be materials that would be available to the public in general, as opposed to materials that are just available for your student population or for use in the course curriculum, even though students would still have access to those materials. That might be a little bit different in terms of what you're reviewing and who's conducting the review than it would be for classroom materials, or even for materials that are kept in the school libraries. So those three distinctions I thought were worth bringing back to the board before you made a final change, to see if you wanted to keep those all under the umbrella of the same type of review process, or if you wanted a different composition to your committee in terms of what that would look like to review.
In the past, has the library kind of had their own policies?
Yeah, so the library, meaning the public library.
Yeah, the public library.
Has a different complaint form and a slightly different process, although they are still sort of pulled under the umbrella of the regular board policies, just as anybody else would be that has anything to do with the school district. And you do have some blurring, because you do have the library materials in the school libraries are allowed access to the public libraries and vice versa, because of the continuum of the library services. So library materials that are maintained in your public libraries are available through the school system, and vice versa through that sharing process. So that's the question, whether you want to kind of keep it all the same, or you want to try to break it out a little bit.
Well, that's why I was wondering, in the past, have we gone separate, or have we kept it all the same?
So it's been separate in terms of a process because, again, for another good example would be is the first step of the complaint process is to go to the building principal. Well, you can't really do that if it's the public library that the complaint's about. Like if I got a complaint about a book in the public library, that's a little different in terms of how that process would start. The form's different. Ultimately, it still ends up back here with the board or a committee of the board or a committee of the superintendent, but the beginning part of the process would be different, and the criteria might be different because you're evaluating things a little bit differently, one tied more to the curriculum, the other tied more to the general public and their interest and serving the community as a whole.
It just seems like we should separate, deal with what we have to deal with our libraries, and then allow the public library to do what that's just me, to do what they need to do.
Well, here's my question. Here's my question. If it was separate, then where is that separate policy?
Got library policies that are down below, and I don't have the policy thing pulled up, but your policies are alphabetical in the sense that each letter refers to a thing. The J's are students, the G's personnel. I can't remember if it's K or H that's library, and then the next.
So there's another policy that governs the library.
There is.
Okay.
Except that we've always kind of tied the two together a little bit. So the question is, do we want to just separate them out and treat them differently entirely? Or do we want to have them combined into one? That's the question.
Right, but if you combine into one, that other policy, ZZ, has to be folded into this.
Correct.
But
That's why I'm asking.
But we don't have it before us.
Not yet, not right now, you do not. So I'm hitting pause because if you guys wanted to do that, that
Gotcha.
requires additional changes. So, and even if you don't, then I think it requires changes to that policy to make sure you're doing what you want.
Yeah, Ms. Clark.
To Ms. Page's point of having the library policy intermingled here, I could see there being some confusion, like if you have some of the policies separated for the library here, but then you have to go here and search. I could definitely see there being some confusion with that. So I also could see the benefit to separating that information out. But if that's the way the policy has worked, and it's always worked that way too, I could be okay. But I definitely could see benefit to pulling it out and adding it with the policies for the library that are specific to the library.
Let me add, and Ms. Drew can comment if needed. What we were told in that opening session was that parental bill of rights will come back.
Exactly.
So to put a sense of urgency on whatever our decision, we probably need to think clearly, because it has the potential of at least being an issue. Now, whether or not our parents and clients use it, but it's something we have to get right. Maybe.
True.
And in our meeting, we did mention that they want active engagement of the parents. Some of the policies are too general, and so they want to make sure that they come together to give a good direction when we get ready to address those issues.
So, and this is just for the board's edification. I looked it up while we were talking. The policy for the library right now is board policy PDF. And it's just a different process, although the school libraries fold under the current board policy that we're looking at, IF. So sounds like I'm hearing keep them separate, but probably review both.
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Yes,
I think so.
We also need to look at the PDF.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm hearing look at both policies, but keep them separate is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I would recommend tabling it, give us a chance to kind of bring PDF back, and we'll bring IF back for a third read, keeping it separate from the library issue, but we'll bring PDF back as a first read with suggested changes to sort of mirror what we're trying to do on the regular curriculum materials. What I got?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And then the last one is policy JH, which is the student activities, and this is the one to modify the eligibility requirements for activities to mirror the CASA requirements. And I've had no further comments on it, so it's ready for third read and approval.
Is there a motion to approve for third read changes to policy JH?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, no.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. My apologies. Okay, so our next agenda item is executive session. Dr. Stubblefield can dismiss staff.
So staff, with the exception of Mr. Lilly and Chief Nicholson, you're free to go.
Thank you, staff, for all your work, and we will see you soon. So would entertain a motion to recess to executive session for the purpose of discussing matters relating to security measures which, if discussed in open session, would jeopardize such security measures, going in at 6:45 for 20 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to extend executive session for 15 minutes and include Chief Nicholson and Mr. Lilly.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes. Thank you. Motion to return to open session, please.
So move.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, board, thank you for, board and staff, thank you for your time tonight. Please make sure you check your email. There's a couple of emails out, I think, that we need to respond to Ms. Smith. Otherwise, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.